In this video, I'm going to break down an over 2-hour conversation between Vivek, a candidate for president, we'll link his information down below, and Elon Musk, moderated by David Sachs. Going to do my best, even though I'm not personally feeling my best. In fact, I'm a little nauseous and a little sick, but you know what? I gave me a lot of time to listen to this and give you a synopsis of it. So, without further ado, here we go. Vivek is the candidate who says he was able to create a multi-billion-dollar company while getting married and having 2 kids. And he started out his conversation very strong. He says he's worried about the American dream, that Americans are striving for purpose, and because they're striving for purpose, we're unfortunately falling victim to self-hate, like flogging yourself, or as Elon Musk says, punching yourself in the face with basically things that don't matter, like wokeism. Now, Vivek wanted to extend that to some of the extreme climate change sort of fight that we've potentially seen, and Elon was probably not the best person to say that to, since Elon quickly defended how important it is to make sure we don't mess up the earth we have here, and how he spends his blood and sweat and tears fighting for climate, or the climate in America and the world. This is a global issue. This is a human issue. Now, Vivek and Elon were able to agree that, of course, we should focus on individual achievement and purpose. And maybe because we don't really have a wider common enemy, we find enemies within each other. You know how united we got after 9/11? That kind of unity is missing. Much like Rome was able to survive for 2,000 years because they had common enemies outside of the Roman Empire rather than enemies basically within it, which could ultimately lead to its collapse, which was a lot of the debating that was going on between Elon and Vivek, was this pessimism about the future. Elon's suggestion for how to solve this was rescinding donations to big colleges that teach anti-Americanism. Basically, corporations or donors who try to influence what we teach individuals through a liberal arts education and essentially indoctrinate them into, hey, if you're white, you're bad. If you succeed, you're bad. If you're successful, you're bad. And these are issues that we should strive for in terms of achievement and success, and of course be colorblind to things like skin color. And instead, basically encourage success off of merit, which is something that Vivek really tries to double down on. Now, I personally ran for governor in California, and I came in second out of recall candidates with almost 1 million votes. What I thought was amazing was that Vivek adopted a similar mindset at the start, which I had as well, which was equal opportunity, equal chance, regardless of the color of your skin, but also Elon's opinion of the focus on education. Now, Vivek didn't echo this as much as I really wish he would have. Vivek had a great start with, hey, we got to make sure the American dream is there for our children. I argued that in California. What am I supposed to tell my children about why I raised them in California with how crazy California is becoming? Vivek took a similar angle here as I did during my governor campaign. But in my governor campaign, I had a really clear roadmap for what I called future schools, which was basically incorporating trade skills in our schools, financial accounting, trade skills, and practical skills, so that every high schooler could graduate at 18 without the need to go to an additional trade school or college. In other words, everybody would have some kind of skill to fall back on. That is missing today. A lot of people graduate at 18 without the opportunity, or ability, should I say, to do anything. There might be plenty of opportunities, but the ability to do anything might be lacking. I really wish Vivek had a stronger message here. He really agreed with Elon that, yeah, those donations to the woke promoting institutions is bad. Fine, we can agree with Elon on that, but Elon's not running for office. I think Vivek needs a stronger message here. But in spirit, I agreed in meritocracy. The next thing that I also agree with both Elon and Vivek on, and is also something that I ran for when I was running for governor, was finally streamlining our immigration processes. The concern in America is that, hey, why do we want to let other people in when, they're just going to come in here and use our social services and then our tax dollars will go to support them? I personally don't agree with that, and I don't think Vivek and Elon agree with either. I think what we should be promoting, though, is that if somebody is capable of moving from a different country to America and then being employed, not taking somebody else's job, but being employed, providing skills that are unique, but not extreme skills. Like you don't need a PhD the way you do now or some kind of crazy STEM achievement to be able to essentially make it into America. Instead, anybody who can prove that they would have the opportunity to work for a company or create a business where there currently isn't one or whatever, just to foster competition and basically be self-sustaining, well, they should be able to apply and have a streamlined legal immigration process. Supporting illegal immigration and then providing free services for illegal immigrants, I don't think it sets the best precedent, because now we're inviting essentially anybody in to break the law. Not the biggest fan of that. Of course, I understand that there are always circumstances and edges around a core ideal, but I think Vivek could have really doubled down a little bit more on, hey, how exactly are we going to enable people to come into America with a more streamlined immigration process? We can all agree in spirit that the legal immigration process sucks. And basically what people do is they just get married and then they live a faux life for a couple of years until their immigration appointment and then they make it in. Beyond that, we've got to actually streamline the immigration process by reforming it. And I didn't get a lot of color on that from Vivek. Although, usually in America, we tend to get lost in the weeds, so maybe there's a method to his madness of not providing too much detail. But anyway, Elon and Vivek, Elon made a good analogy here about how, look, if there are ace players on other teams, in other words, people from other countries, we should be able to have them join our team and we could all crush together. This optimistic view that, hey, look, adding people is a net benefit to everyone. Now, Vivek then talked about how he, was the founder of this company that, launched many pharmaceuticals and otherwise. I lost Vivek a little bit here. I wasn't as excited about Vivek's past as I thought I would. Now, before I go into this next segment, I just have to give you a disclaimer, because we're about to look at some financials for a company that Vivek is involved in, and I want to give you a heads up. Look, I cover finance daily on this channel, and really news that makes you money. Often that does involve politics as well, because political decisions can affect the way we make money. I teach how to build your wealth and really how anybody can become a millionaire in a Zero to Millionaire real estate investing course, stocks and psychology of money, and plenty of other programs on building your wealth, including how to make more money with artificial intelligence or as an employee or as an entrepreneur. In other words, you want to be more productive and you want to make more money? Some really good programs linked down below. I am a licensed financial advisor as well, and I run an actively managed ETF. So when I go through this, I want you to know that I look at balance sheets and income statements on a daily basis, and while I haven't read every word of this filing, I do have some concerns with this company that Vivek helped found. But before we look at the financials, a bit of background. According to the NYT, which I know many people are going to throw their hands up and go, come on, this is going to be biased. But listen to at least the allegation and then let Vivek defend it in the future. But I'll show you the financials first, right after this preface here. Apparently in 2014, Vivek founded this company, ROI Vant Sciences. I call it ROI Vant Sciences because that's actually what the allegation here is, that the company's ROI stands for return on investment, which was a really interesting way to name a pharmaceutical company, that the priority was return on investment rather than life sciences or something that was like promoting actual biological outcome, right? But anyway, founded this in Bermuda, which is a tax haven area, with $100 million in funding for the hedge fund that he worked for after college. Then what they did is they ended up buying for $5 million a patent for a specific Alzheimer's drug that GlaxoSmithKline had given up on after 4 failed trials. Now, later, that drug would go on to fail. It didn't end up succeeding. And I'm talking within the 8 years thereafter, no success. It never succeeded. But guess what happened in the meantime? 6 months before starting any new trials on this failed drug that he bought the rights for $5 million, he ended up taking Axovant public. So in other words, he carved out part of the company that he bought for $5 million with this hedge fund backed money, and then IPO'd the company for $3 billion. That company today is public and it's worth over $8.9 billion, which you might think, hey, like, that's amazing. It must be doing really well if it's worth over $8.9 billion today, right? Well, that's where the cynicism of the New York Times story gets me scratching my head, and I go, well, maybe they started with rocky foundations, but maybe things have gotten better, right? No. This is a company that in 2022, ROI Advanced Sciences, again, I'm purposefully mispronouncing it because that's what they created this name for. Anyway, for 2022, the company had 0 product revenue and $55 million in licensing revenue. In 2023, they finally had some revenues, but $28 million of revenues, $33 million of licensing revenue. And here's the wild part. I understand when a company loses or spends nearly $500 million on research and development. I get that. But why would a company spending $500 million on research and development also be spending over $500 million, $600 million on selling general and administrative fees, much of which includes stock-based comp? So hold on a second. A company with nearly no revenues is dumping a ton of money in the selling and the administrating of a company that isn't really selling a product. They're researching a potential product. But anyway, this company is literally losing over $1 billion a year. And so the history of where Vivek got his money from, which apparently now he only owns about 15% of this company, which is still great. I mean, 15% of $8.9 billion still makes you a billionaire. Even if that's only 10% off of the other gains he's taken in the past, great. And who knows, maybe the company's fallen into some kind of management disrepair or dysfunction or whatever. But let's just say if there was one thing that I just didn't love that I looked up when I started digging into some of the financials of Vivek's past, it's this. And it made me scratch my head a little bit. Wouldn't that be a great way to kind of, get attention after you graduate from college and you have some hedge fund backing? Hey, let's just take a pharmaceutical public and market it really well. And it almost feels like that's kind of what the company is still doing today, marketing itself really well. So then I wonder, is there detail behind what Vivek is running for as a candidate? And I would like to actually see that detail because we know he's smooth-spoken, but where's his detail? See, when I ran for governor, I gave more detail than anybody asked for. And partly that was probably a problem because then people, again, get into the weeds in politics of all your details and they're like, oh, well, I don't like exactly how you do this detail. Who knows? Maybe that's how you're supposed to run for politics. I don't know. It wasn't my opinion. But that was sort of a red flag for me. So I'd like to see some more color on that because he talks a big game, but the way this big money came about is a little eyebrow raising to me, let's just say. And who knows? So far, I have to say, I like some of the things he says. I don't necessarily love the idea of let's delete the FBI and basically fire 20,000 back office workers, take the other 15,000 and allocate them to other entities that already exist, like the U.S. Marshal Service or the Department of Justice or otherwise. I think there's probably going to be a hole there. And don't get me wrong, I definitely disagree with some of the things we saw the FBI getting involved with, especially as we saw in the Twitter files. But there's probably going to be some kind of hole left if you just go in and we're deleting the FBI on day one, which is something that Vivek says, nah, it won't leave a hole. We'll be fine. Okay, maybe a little bit more detail would be useful here. That unfortunately could cast Vivek on a little bit more of an extreme side. which I think most Americans are just looking for somebody to give them the straight scoop. And this is actually something I really like of Vivek, where he says, look, Americans can handle the truth. We deserve to know the truth on vaccine safety, COVID origins, the Hunter Biden story, or corruption on any side of government. And this I wholeheartedly agree with Vivek on. I agree that people deserve and can handle the truth. Just tell them the truth about what's going on or what's happening behind the scenes. Why we're not enabling an oversight office for like a new inspector general to audit essentially the expenditures in Ukraine is mind-blowing. It's something that Vivek and Elon Musk shake their heads at out of disgust. Apparently this was blocked by Senate Democrats. Maybe there are some other reasons for it. Maybe it's a topic for a different video. But there was also a lot of frustration over Ukraine. And it wasn't just because of this blocking of the audit, but it was also the idea of why are we fighting a war in a trench warfare style where we're getting maybe inches to feet to maybe a few miles of territory through trench warfare, and thousands to hundreds of thousands of young men essentially are dying in trench warfare, as Elon Musk says. The flowers of the young generation of Ukrainian youth is dying, and this is bad. Why is the West rejecting Ukrainian neutrality? Why are we pushing for NATO expansion so much, as David Sachs argued? Why are we escalating ourselves into World War III? NATO expansion is a red line for Russia, so why don't we stop that NATO expansion? This is something that Vivek agrees with, and so does RFK. Let's stop NATO expansion, and let's have cooler heads prevailing here, because in war, nobody wins. Elon argues that ultimately this war may have gotten to Zelensky's head, and there could be some problems here. Now, moving on, it's worth noting that there were some conversations about Fidel Castro and about Putin and about regime change and bureaucracy, and the conversation really went on for quite a while. I've done my best to hit all of the meat of the matter I got out of this conversation. And I have to say, out of 2 hours of talking, I didn't get a lot of, what are you going to do for us, Vivek? And if there would be a recommendation I could give to any politician, it would be, please tell me how you are going to fix our schools. How are you going to fix our government? How are you going to make us have more faith that we can actually get daily matters done that actually apply to Americans, whether it's fiscal sustainability and the deficit spending that we keep running up? Why are we spending more money on issues that maybe don't matter so much to individual Americans instead of issues that do matter, like health and safety, or, gosh, our schools and law enforcement? Why is there lawlessness both at the border and in our cities? What can we do to solve these issues that affect us at home? Why are people dying on the streets of America to homelessness? These are the things that we should be talking about. And I wish there was more color on these topics, and we didn't get those out of this conversation. Now, maybe they'll come up in other conversations, but this is the summary that I got from Elon confronting Vivek. Hopefully you appreciated my summary. If you do, check out the programs on Building Your Wealth link down below for more perspective from me. Thank you so much. Feel free to subscribe and share the video if you found it useful. We'll see you in the next one. And hopefully, I feel better because I think I gotta go to the bathroom again. Now, I want you to know this. When it comes to AI, time is what's going to make you money. And if you can prove that value to an employer, you'll always be able to be employed. So this is another way of making sure that you don't get replaced by artificial intelligence. If you can master AI by starting on the ground floor, let's go.